Hello guys, welcome back. Today we're going to build our CI/CD infrastructure, right? And to start, we need a GitHub repo where the developer can write the code and push that code to that repo, right? Also, we're going to need a Jenkins server that's going to pull the code, build the code, and build our Docker image after doing some code analysis, right? Then we're going to do the code analysis using SonarQube, especially the static code analysis. Then when everything looks good, Jenkins gonna push it to an Artifactory, right? Like Docker Hub. So we're gonna need to build a Jenkins server. Also, we're gonna need a SonarQube server, right? Then we're gonna need a Artifactory, right? Like Docker Hub or or any other type of Artifactory where we can push our Docker image. Then we're going to need to build our Kubernetes cluster, right? And after building our Kubernetes cluster, we're going to deploy our ArgoCD, and we're also going to deploy Rancher, and we're also going to create our NFS server, right, for our cluster. That is the plan. So let's jump on it. So the first thing we're going to do is to create our Kubernetes cluster, right? That is the most important one. And to create our Kubernetes cluster, we're going to use Linode, right? Linode is like AWS, but it is lightweight, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go to login, and you're going to log in. And if you don't have an account, you can sign up, right? And follow the step to sign up, right? After that, you're going to come over here and you're going to look for Kubernetes, and you're going to click on create a cluster, right? I'm going to name my cluster DTS. You can name it whatever you want, right? And for the region, I'm going to take a region close to me, and I am in Houston, so I'm going to take Dallas. And the version, I'm going to take version 1.26. You can take version 1.27, but it's up to you, right? I don't want a HA control plane, right? So I'm going to say no. And for the dedicated CPU, right, I'm going to take dedicated 4 gig, right? And it's going to be $36 per node. And I'm going to take 3 nodes. And each node will have 2 CPUs. So I'm going to click on add. Then I'm going to click over here on create cluster. Let's wait a little bit for it to be ready. So it is provisioning 3 nodes, and I'm going to pause the video and see you when the cluster is ready. So we are back and we have our 3 nodes running. So we are good. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to come over here and click on view. Then I'm going to view my cube config and I'm going to copy it, right? Then I'm going to open a Visual Studio Code, right? I'm going to go to my file called .cube, right? And I'm going to look for the config. And since I only have one cluster, I'm going to delete whatever I have there. I'm going to paste what I copied earlier, right? Let me put it at the top. And I'm going to save it, right? Since I saved it, just to make sure that everything is working fine, that I'm able to connect to my Kubernetes cluster, I'm going to do kubectl get nodes. And as you guys can see, I do have my 3 nodes right here running and ready, right? So the next thing we're going to do is to install an Ingress controller, right? We're going to install the Nginx Ingress controller, and we're also going to install a Cert-Manager, right? And we're going to install Let's Encrypt, right? So let's set up our Nginx Ingress controller and our Cert-Manager. I'm gonna go to my GitHub repo. I'm gonna post the link in under the video. So the first thing I'm gonna do, let me make it a little bit smaller. So the first thing we're gonna do is to add the repo, right? I'm gonna add the repo. I'm just gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste it right here, and it's gonna add the Ingress Nginx repo. For me, it's gonna say already exists, but for you, it's gonna add it, right? Then I'm gonna do some Helm repo update. I'm gonna use Helm, by the way, to set up my Ingress controller, Nginx especially. I have a bunch of repos, so it's gonna update all those repos. So the next thing I'm gonna do is to copy this and to request Helm to upgrade if it exists or install my new Nginx Ingress, right? Ingress controller, right? And I'm going to install it into the namespace called controller. You can name it whatever you want. It's just me. And I'm going to press enter. While it is installing the release, use Canaan S, right? And I was able to access my Kubernetes cluster, and I'm able to see all the pods. And as you guys can see, we have new pod on the controller namespace, right? And you guys can see it is getting ready. It's going to be one container in one pod. And the Ingress controller is ready, right? And to know that we're going to do shift colon and we can do Ingress. Oh, sorry. Shift, we're going to do Ingress class, right? And you guys going to see that we have a new Ingress class called Nginx, right? So our Ingress controller is installed and ready. The next thing we're going to do is, you can also use this command if you want, but it's up to you. The next thing we're going to do is to install our Cert-Manager, right? To do that, I'm going to go all the way down where you're going to see install Cert-Manager. And the first thing we're going to do is to install our Cert-Manager CRD. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to clear this one and I'm going to paste it right here, right? Then I'm going to create a namespace, or I don't need to create a namespace, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to kubectl create namespace. I'm going to make sure that my Cert-Manager is within the Cert-Manager namespace, right? So I need to create that namespace. And the other thing is that I need to add the Cert-Manager repo, Helm repo, sorry. I'm going to add it. And I can do the update, but I already did earlier, so I don't have to do it 2 times. The next thing is that I'm going to install my Cert-Manager, right? So I'm going to go and press enter, and it's going to install the Cert-Manager. While it is installing, we can see over here. Let's go to port. I'm going to see that we have 3 new ports on the Cert-Manager namespace, right? And they are running. So we just finished installing our Cert-Manager, or deploying our Cert-Manager. It's more like a deployment than, yes. So we all good. We already install or deploy our Ingress controller, and we also deploy our Cert-Manager, right? So the next thing we're going to do is to deploy a issuer resource, right? We can do the issuer resource, or you can do the cluster issuer resource, right? we're going to deploy the cluster issuer resource. So to do that, I'm going to open my Visual Studio Code again, and under my that cube, I'm just going to do it there. You don't have to do it there. I'm going to create a new file, right? I'm going to call it cluster issuer.yaml, right? And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to come there. I'm going to paste it right here. So I'm going to use let's encrypt that -prod, right? And it's going to be in the default namespace. My issue are going to be in the default namespace, right? And this is my user. I can use any user I want, any user email. I'm going to use this server, right? And my private key name going to be let encrypt -secret -prod, right? And I'm going to use the Ingress class called Nginx. And if you recall earlier, we had a Ingress class called Nginx. This is where we're going to put it, right? I'm going to save it. And what I'm going to do is kubectl apply -f cluster, and I'm going to press enter, right? It said the resource has been created, right? So let's go back wire, and let's go to our K9S terminal, right? The next thing we're going to do is shift colon, and we're going to do cluster issuer, right? As you guys can see, the name of our cluster issuer, right? So the cluster issuer is ready. So we are done with our Nginx Ingress controller and our search manager. The next thing we're going to do is to deploy Rancher and set up our long-term storage, right? Let's go ahead and deploy our Rancher, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is to add Rancher repo. Then I'm going to update it, right? Then I'm going to create the namespace. I'm going to deploy my Rancher into the castle system, right? So I'm going to create that namespace, and I'm going to run this. So if we can go over here, you guys going to see that I set my host name as rancher.anayelibo.com, right? And my bootstrap password going to be admin, right? And I'm using my Ingress class going to be the Nginx, right? And my TLS source going to be the let's encrypt. We can put whatever email we want, right? And I'm just going to click on enter. I'm going to press enter, sorry. And let's go back here and do port. And you guys going to see that we have a couple of ports getting ready, right? And one of them is this one, right? If we do order, we're going to see that we have an order that is pending, right? And the issuer is Rancher. So we have a issuer called Rancher, right? So I'm going to go to Ingress, and you guys going to see that we don't have the IP address yet, right? But let's wait a little bit, and we're going to have it, right? So right now we have it. It just popped out. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go to wherever you have your domain, right? Mine, I created my domain on Route 53 on AWS, right? So I'm going to go on Route 53. I'm going to go to hosted zone. I'm going to go to the hosted zone name. It's going to be anayelibo.com. And you can create a record, but mine, I already have my record right here. So I'm just going to edit it, right? And I'm going to put the proper IP address, and I'm going to put 1 minute, right? and I'm going to click on save. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get ready, right? It looks like our host name is ready, right? Let's copy the host name. It's going to be rancher.nilebo.com, right? I'm going to copy it. I'm going to open a new tab and I'm going to paste it, right here. And I'm going to press enter. It's going to say the settings sat ahead, but that's fine. It's Google doing Google. So I'm going to click anyway. Visit this unsafe website anyway. So I'm going to put the admin as my bootstrap password, right? Then I'm going to set up this one. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to click on check. By checking this box, you accept the end user license agreement and term and conditions, right? And I'm going to click on continue. Let me start again and accept it and click on continue. Okay. So now it is working. I don't know what happened. Now we have our Rancher installed, right? The next steps will be to set up our Longhorn. I changed the browser. I decided to use Microsoft Edge, and as you guys can see, we don't have the issue with warning or anything. Over here is saying connection is secure and everything is working properly. No more error, right? No more warning. So in these steps, we're gonna set up our Longhorn. What is a Longhorn? Longhorn is a lightweight and easy to use distributed block storage system, right, for Kubernetes. So we saw on previous video how to create the NFS server and make sure that our Kubernetes cluster use that NFS server for long-term storage, right? We also saw how to use EFS or AWS. Amazon EFS has a long-term storage for EKS for a Kubernetes cluster, right? But this time you are not going to use either of them, right? What we're going to do is that we're going to use Longhorn, and Longhorn going to use storages that we have in our cluster, like our node storage, to create some kind of NFS server, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through the steps to set up Longhorn. So the first thing we're going to do is to go over the list of all our cluster, right? And we only have one, and our cluster is called local, right? We're going to click on local. Then we're going to go on apps. On apps, we're going to click on charts, and we're going to look for Longhorn, right? And we have it right here. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to scroll down. As you guys can see, everything looks fine. And I'm going to click on install. And I'm going to click on next. Then I'm going to click on install, right? It's going to take a little bit of time to install. So I'm going to pause the video and come back when it's done installing. So it looks like everything is ready, right? Like our Longhorn system has been deployed. I'm going to close this one. And just to make sure that everything is fine, you're going to see this one, Longhorn, over here now. You can click on it, right? And you're going to see manage storage system via UI, right? I'm going to click on it and it's going to open a new tab, right? As you guys can see, we have node, we have volume, we can have jobs, we can have backup, and for me, everything looks good, right? Everything looks good. So the next step to do is to make sure that our Longhorn storage class is set up as default, right? And to do that, we're going to go on terminal. And also, I forgot to tell you guys can see that we have Longhorn's iPhone system namespace right here. And we have the CSI attacher and provisioner and resizer and snapshotter, right? You guys can see them right here. So the next thing we're going to do is to to press shift and tab, and we're gonna put storage class, right? Or it appear there. So we're gonna press enter, and we're gonna see that we have a new storage class called Longhorn, right? That is the storage class that we want. So the two first storage classes, we don't need them. So we're gonna delete them, right? We're gonna go ahead and delete them. So we only have one storage class now. So we all set up. The next step is to set up our Jenkins server. Last time I showed you guys how to do that using AWS console, right? But this time we're gonna do it using Terraform and AWS CLI. Before we even start setting up our Jenkins server, the first thing we need to do is to make sure that we have Terraform installed on our PC, right? So these are the steps how to install Terraform, right? You can install it manually. You can use Homebrew if you have a MacBook or OS X, right? And since we have Windows, we're going to install it using Chocolate. And if you have Linux, depending on your flavor, you're going to see how to install it, right? So let's assume that you already installed Terraform. The next thing to do is to install AWS CLI, right? You're going to see install AWS CLI. I'm going to click on the first link for the documentation. And you guys can see you can install it using Linux, Mac OS, or Windows. Since I'm using Windows, I'm going to follow these steps, right? And I'm going to make sure that everything is installed. Just to double check that everything is installed, I'm going to open a new tab. I'm going to clear everything, and I'm going to do Terraform hyphen version, right? As you guys can see, it is installed and it is using Terraform version 1.5.1, right? That is fine. And also, I'm also going to do AWS CLI hyphen version. Sorry, AWS hyphen version, sorry. And you guys going to see that I'm using AWS CLI 2.11.8. Okay, so we have the two things we want before even starting doing anything, right? So the next step is to make sure that we are able to connect our AWS account to our computer using AWS CLI, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is to go to IAM and create a user. So I'm going to go to users and I'm going to create a user right here. My user going to be, let's call it DevOps1, okay? I don't need access to the AWS management console, so I'm just going to click on next, right? I'm going to go to attach policy directly, and I'm going to give that user administrator access, right? And I'm going to go to next, then I'm going to go on create user. I have my user right here created and no activities, right? So I'm going to click on DevOps1. Then I'm going to click on security credentials. Then I'm going to look for access keys and I'm going to click on create access key. You're going to see command line interface right here. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to check I understand the above recommendation and want to proceed to create an access key, right? So I'm going to press next. I don't need to put any description, right? I'm going to press create access key. So after doing that, we're going to see that we have the access key and we have the access key ID. So you can download the CSV file wire if you want, but since this is just for demonstration, after this video, by the time you see this video, everything gonna be deleted. So I don't need to do that. What I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna put side by side, right, my terminal and this console, and I'm gonna clear everything. I'm gonna do AWS configure, right? I'm gonna press enter. It's going to ask me for the access key ID. I'm just going to copy the first one and paste it right here and press enter. It's going to ask the secret access key. I'm going to copy the second one and paste it right here. And it's going to ask for the default region. I'm going to use US-East-1. And it's going to ask for the default format. I'm not going to put anything. And we are set up, right? We are able now to access our AWS using AWS CLI. Everything is set up, right? So the next step is to start setting up our Jenkins server. The next thing we're going to do is to make sure that we have our S3 bucket, right? We're going to use DTS-1 so that we can store or we can save our state file remotely, right? So we have it already done, right? Let's go over everything. We are not going to build that from scratch. I'm going to post the link of everything, right? The first thing we do is that we're going to define our backend right here, and the region of our backend going to be US East 1, right? Then we're going to define our providers, right? As you can see, right? And we have everything done properly. We have our VPC, the route, and everything. You can go over it, right? Everything is done using Terraform. And we also have a bastion host in case we want to SSH to the private instance, right? And we're also going to create a domain, as you can see over here. We're going to fetch it. We're going to fetch anayelebo.com, right? And then we're going to go over that record, and we're going to make sure that we connect to the proper load balancer, right? And so on. We're going to create a certificate, and we're going to make sure that everything is working fine. So we can go over it. It's a little bit long, so you can go over it slowly. If you have a question, please ping me. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to do Terraform. Sorry, I'm going to clear everything. I'm going to do Terraform init. Then I'm going to do Terraform validate, just to make sure that everything looks good. It's going to take a little bit of time. So it says everything is valid, right? So now we're going to do Terraform apply, right? Hyphen. Let's do apply. Sorry. It's going to take a little bit of time, but that's fine. I'm going to put yes. And we're just going to start waiting, right? It's going to take a little bit of time. So I'm going to pause the video and come back when everything is created. So it looks like everything went well. And let's go to our browser, right? Let's type over here. We're going to do Jenkins dot anaya.ebo.com, right? And our Jenkins is right there. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to copy this. Then over here, I log in to my Jenkins server, right? Then I'm going to do cat and I'm going to paste it, right? I'm going to do sudo and I'm going to copy this. Then I'm going to paste it right here, right? Then I'm going to install everything. So I'm just going to do everything default admin, everything admin, everything admin at admin.com, right? I'm going to save and continue, right? And I'm going to update it and save and finish. So my Jenkins server is ready. The next step is to create or deploy a SonarQube. So let's go ahead and deploy SonarQube, right? You're going to need a terminal, as you guys can see right here. Let me close this one and this one. You're going to need a terminal, right? Let me put it side by side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a SonarQube Helm chart repo. Then I'm going to update everything. Then I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to take the Helm chart wire. I'm going to take this Helm chart. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to open a new folder. I'm going to go to users. You can open it wherever you want, right? I'm just going to open it right here. That cube, and I'm going to open a new file, and I'm going to call it SonarQube.yaml. Then I'm going to paste this one right there. And after pasting this, you guys gonna see over there. I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna copy. I'm gonna go back to the Git Helm chart, and I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna paste it right here. And I'm gonna change the file. I'm gonna call it SonarQube, right? And I'm gonna press enter. So it's gonna install it, and if I go to, I have to go to my Route 53. And I go to the hosted zone, and I come over here. I'm going to copy the same IP as you see for Rancher, and I'm going to come to SonarQube. Then I'm going to edit it. I already have it, so I'm just going to edit it, and I'm going to put 1 minute, right? And I'm going to save it. while it is propagating, I can come over here and do pod, and I'm going to look for SonarQube. You see that it is being created, right? So you just have to wait. I'm going to go to Ingress. As you guys can see, we have a challenge for our SonarQube, and the challenge has passed, right? So we can copy this, go to our Internet Explorer, and I can paste it right here. It's not ready yet. Let's give it a little bit of time, right? It's going to be ready. So let's check it again. And if we go, we see that we have a namespace called SonarQube. And let's see if the app is ready and running. We see that it's ready and running, right? So let's go back to our browser and refresh it. So usually the username and the password, the default username and the default password are admin and admin. Let's check it. Yeah, so we're going to update it. I'm going to do admin, then I'm going to change it to my new password. So we have SonarQube up and ready. The next step is to make sure that we have ArgoCD deploy. To install ArgoCD or to deploy ArgoCD in our Kubernetes cluster is basically 3 steps, right? So I'm gonna bring my terminal. I'm gonna put it side by side, right? So the first thing I'm gonna do is to add my ArgoCD repo, right? Then I'm gonna update it. Then I'm gonna copy the value files. I'm gonna open my Visual Studio Code again, right? And I'm gonna create a new file. I'm gonna call it ArgoCD.yaml, right? CD, sorry. And I'm gonna paste this one. Then what I'm gonna do is that from wire, I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste it wire. But I'm gonna do some change, right? I'm gonna remove -f wire and I'm gonna put it at the end. -f, and I'm gonna put the name of the file I just created, right? It's gonna be argocd.yaml, and I'm gonna press enter. So it'll be starting installing ArgoCD. As you guys can see over here, if we go a little bit down, you're going to see that we have a new namespace called ArgoCD and it's been created. If I go to Ingress, I'm going to see that I have a new challenge and I have a new Ingress, right? A new Ingress resource, right? That's going to be argocd.nil.able.com. I'm just going to copy the IP address. Then I'm going to go to my route 53 and I'm going to click on argocd.nil.com, right? And I'm going to edit it. I'm going to put the new IP and I'm going to put the TTL to 1 minute and I'm going to save it, right? So I'm just going to copy this and let's go and see if it's deployed. It says everything is deployed, right? Let's go and see if ArgoCD is ready, right? We see that is ready and the challenge is gone, right? So I'm going to go to my page and I'm going to open a new one and I'm going to paste this. ArgoCD that. Let's give it a little bit of time, then we're going to come back. So let's try again and see if it is ready. Okay, it is ready. So that is fine. The next thing we need to do is so that is the end of building our CI/CD infrastructure, right? We are done with ArgoCD. As you guys can see, it is up and running. We are able to log in. And please, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And in the next video, we're going to start building our CI/CD pipeline from this infrastructure, right? See you then.